Good afternoon,
Hey,
everybody. How are you today?
I am really excited to talk about this episode. This
I am
episode was
too.
amazing,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I'm like hype.
I am too. This was a good one for sure. But hello, everybody. Welcome to our Bad Batch recap show here on The Dope. I am Catherine. That, I'm going to get the point right eventually, is Maui Jones, my co-pilot. Yeah. There we go. I've put it directly in front of my face. But yeah, we are here to recap Bad Batch episode 8 entitled Reunion.
hmm
And the moment I saw that title, Reunion, we knew what was up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it was pretty obvious what like we were about to get a reunion, but there was an unexpected reunion for us viewers as fans of the Clone Wars at the end as well, which made me happy.
Yes, we will get there because that
hmm
was a big one and one that I believe we predicted, or I don't know if we necessarily predicted. I'll have to go back and rewatch the footage, but be like, hey, it would be really cool if this guy came back.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like Rex
Absolutely.
was someone that we knew he would come back for sure. That was a prediction, but this guy was
Mhm.
like kind of on like the wish list, I think.
I mean, yeah, I just love the character design and just like how cool that character is. So that made me really happy.
Me too, me too. But we will get there. We will get there, dear viewers. We are going to start though with, I mean, right from the opening shot. That so we get the intro, we get the title Reunion, and it's like, oh shoot, and then you get Camino right from the get go, and you're like, oh, it's time. We've been waiting
hmm
4 or 5 episodes, but it's finally time.
Yep. Welcome back to the main plot.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back. Now, my first question for you is so from the end of the last episode, you see the scavengers being like, it's the clones, alert the Empire, and so we were like, oh shoot, that means Crosshair is coming back probably because they're alerting the Empire. But did you think that it'd be the very next episode, or do you think they would kind of tease it out maybe an episode or two longer?
This is the halfway point.
Yeah, that is
They
true.
they they had to get back to the main plot. I
That
thought
is
that
true.
I personally think that they waited too long to get back to the main plot.
I would agree.
I am happy that we're finally there.
I am too.
Yeah, I really I love this show, but in the Mandalorian does the same thing, right? Where
For sure.
the episodes are great, but then also I'm like, all right, can we get to the back to the main plot? Instead of the going into town and fixing the problem is great, but you can only see that so many times before I want to get back to the main storyline.
Yeah. Totally, totally. And yeah, especially when, you have your title characters, the Bad Batch, and then one of them is essentially brainwashed and no longer with them. It's like, oh, like, are we going to get like our heroes writing again?
hmm
I would agree with you. That is kind of a long wait for such a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
Um, but anyhow, so very quickly we get the news that the Empire knows that they're there and they're going to send a strike team to deal with the situation.
hmm
And then we get a transition back to Brekka, and Omega is learning how to disarm a bomb from Wrecker, which I thought was really funny because Wrecker's thing is all blowing things up, and I was kind of like doing the opposite, like teaching her like how to be safe with that, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, and I appreciated the gag with the countdown, and
Yeah.
then she runs for cover, and it's just a smoke bomb, and he's just like, "You think I'd actually train you on live ammunitions?" Like, I thought that was hilarious.
See, that was my next thing, because, like, okay, we know that Wrecker is a little unhinged. Like, there's definitely a screw loose there somewhere.
Mhm.
And so my first thought was, like, is he doing this for real? Like, obviously he would never do anything to hurt her because those two are such a team, but, like, he is a little off.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And
he's a little off. He's a little off for sure.
yeah. So I
Which I kind of
wasn't
appreciate,
convinced.
though.
I do too. Oh, for sure. Yeah,
hmm
he's always kind of that wild card. You don't really know what he's ever going to do, but which makes him all the more delightful and all the more reason why he's my favorite. But I was just like, I wouldn't put it entirely past him to do something crazy like that. And one of my favorite moments of the whole episode was he's like, "Oh, you think I'd do that?" And he goes, "I'm not crazy." And then he gives this crazy laugh, this like psycho laugh. I'm like, "Oh my god, Wrecker, you're insane."
Yeah, no, he's a bit unhinged for sure.
Yeah. But again, like we know he would never do anything to harm her.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the first instance of some action here where the scrappers spot them, and it leads us on this chase scene. I just wanted to give like a quick. I mean, there's not really much I want to say about this fight. It's over pretty quickly. Not fight. This chase. It's over pretty quickly. I do want to say though that the scrappers kind of give me Knights of Ren vibes. Like you saw their masks with like they're like the full face shield. You don't see eyes. You don't see anything. I don't know. I just wanted to comment on that.
I think that's like I personally think that's a technique that they often use to dehumanize the cannon fodder.
Okay, sure.
You know,
I
like
like that
stormtroopers are
philosophical take.
faceless, so
Yeah, that's
like
true.
we don't care if they get murdered, and we don't say, "Hey, you just murdered hundreds of people in here. You should have an R rating on your movie," right? So like,
Right.
oh no, they're just faceless. They could be robots. There's no blood.
Yeah, who cares?
You know, you can't see their face. They don't have a name. It's like, don't name your chicken before you
before you cut it.
before you cut it up for food.
Although I will say, on the flip side of that, yes, those two that we encountered were cannon fodder for sure, but they only used stun blasters. They didn't actually kill those guys.
They did use stun blasters. I maintained that third one though that fell over the thing.
Oh, he's gone.
Dead.
He is dead for sure. In fact, I think the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh, he's dead. Like he's hella dead.
It made me think of College Humor did the series of like Batman parodies with Pete Holmes, where he like is clearly killing people, but he's saying, "Oh no, they're sleeping. I have a code. I don't kill people like the bad guys." But they're like, "You just put a batarang through that guy's head. Like he's clearly dead." He's like, "Shh, he's sleeping." You know, and so like I was thinking of that. Like, did they? Like I was thinking, like, oh, like they like Wrecker probably snapped all of their necks after they were passed out. Man, exactly, Mike. And then they just told Omega, "Oh no, it's okay.
Yeah,
they're just knocked out."
Yeah, we'll be gone before they even wake up.
Yeah,
Batman.
Batman. They're
there you go.
Hysterical. They're so funny.
Oh man, I'll have to check those out. That sounds really funny. Yeah, because there's definitely been moments in like action movies, live action or animated, where there's a big explosion or there's a car wreck or someone falls and I'm like, well, that guy is at the very least paralyzed, if not completely annihilated. Like there are certain moments, and actually this relates to something I want to get to later. But there are certain moments where I find a little bit hard to suspend the disbelief a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like they go like a little too far at certain points.
Agreed.
Yeah. But I do want to talk about that scene where they kind of like lay down the sleeping, knocked out bodies of those scrappers, because they're talking about how, there's such a horde here, we'll have this big payday, Sid will owe us at the end of this, because they're going to find all these things that they can sell or trade that are weapons off the ship. Well, I thought it was kind of interesting because that seems to me to be kind of a 180 on the anti-war profiteering message from The Last Jedi. You go on Canto Bites and they talk about, there's only one thing in the galaxy that'll make you this rich: war. But so my question to you is that a contradiction, or is it made more okay because the Bad Batch are not they're using it to survive, they're not using it to get rich?
I don't think that the Bad Batch has an ideology yet.
Okay,
right?
Sure.
They're just doing what they can do. And even though they are coded as good guys, and you can tell they're coded as good guys because they're already wrestling with it, right?
Yeah.
They're already wrestling with like the morality of what they're doing, right? So they are coding them as good guys. I just don't think that they are there yet. They're not fully formed. Right now, they're just thinking about survival, and they don't know what to do. They've never had this much agency in their life.
Yeah.
And that's, I think like the larger thing. Thank you, darling. So
I
had to get my Dr. Pepper, zero sugar, cream soda.
I love
zero
cream soda.
calories.
I haven't tried that yet. That sounds amazing. I love cream soda.
It's Dr. Pepper and cream soda. It's delicious.
I just have my Denison University Water bottle that I bought freshman year. Shout out to DU. Love you.
I thought you were Northwestern. Is that part of Northwestern?
No, Northwestern. I went to grad school at Northwestern. DU is where I went to undergrad. Yes.
Oh.
Hello, she has a master's.
Apologies.
No, it's fine. In fact, behind my laptop, I have my 2 diplomas, and on top of the diplomas are like little pennants of each one. So
behind my laptop, I have the women of DC, all dressed
cute.
in white, except for Catwoman, who's dressed in black, and she's dressed in black because Batman won't go down on her. So it's the death of her sex life.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Have you not heard about that?
I have. I just love that we're commenting on an animated Dave Filoni show, and all of a sudden it's like, well, Batman won't go down on her.
Yeah.
No, no, that's funny. I think that's really funny.
I'm just saying, Wrecker's probably smashed Sid. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You know, Wrecker.
Oh my god.
And nothing's taboo with Wrecker. Wrecker do anything.
Right. I wonder. Side note: remember we were talking about Echo's robot arm?
Yes. Yeah. Don't come at me like I'm like you came up with Wrecker's prosthetic choices for his hand.
Oh my god, we're getting off the rails so quick. It hasn't even been 15 minutes yet. Oh Jesus Christ! No, it's fine. We're here to have fun. This is fun. I just love how we went from war profiteering to Batman won't go down on Catwoman.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
You never know what you're gonna get here at the Bad Batch Recap Show.
Yes.
But yeah,
right, back to the story.
I was going to say, I think your argument is definitely backed up by the fact that they didn't go with Rex, and Hunter can't really give like a tangible reason why. He has no idea what their place in this galaxy is now that the Republic is not a thing, but he didn't have the inhibitor chip go off. Exactly. I mean, right now their prime directive is to just take care of Omega. Like that's it. Yeah. That's all they're trying. Everything they're doing, from being on the run to protect her, to trying to get money to survive, to Sid's death, is all just to protect Omega.
Yeah, so, I would assume if they did not have Omega, that they would have gone with Rex, right? Like they would have had a path, maybe a very different path. I'd love to see for any Doctor Who fans listening, like the Turn Left episode of the Bad Batch, where like if they did a different thing and never met Omega, to see how they get through, Order 66 on, if they sync up with Rex, we could very well see them then like interacting with like in Star Wars Rebels and things like that. That would be like super cool. Yeah,
I'm not convinced that they would definitely have gone with Rex, but I think they would have been for sure more likely to have gone with Rex. Because they don't know what he's up to, I mean, Hunter's reasoning for not going with Rex in the last episode was only partially because of Omega. His thesis was, I have to do what's best for my team, and Rex says, well, what's that? And he says, I don't know yet.
Right, but what's best for his team has changed because the team is now revolving around a child.
Sure. Okay.
Right. So like I think that what's best for my team is actually what's best for us is the parents of Omega. Mm-hmm. We are taking care of a child. We cannot get pulled into interplanetary war. We have to we have to actively step away from that, which is, and he doesn't know yet because that's the only life he's ever known. Mm-hmm. So what does a soldier do when war is no longer the primary thesis of their existence?
Yeah. I mean that's something we've seen throughout our history as well. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So we're mildly okay with the arms dealing in this show.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. Yeah, they're doing what they got to do. They're trying to get out the dead of Sid. They're doing what they got to do. Yeah,
and I think it's one of those things that, I mean, prediction time, I don't think it's something we'll really touch on as much.
No, I don't think that's going to be a theme of this.
I don't think. That's not a vibe I get from this show. This doesn't seem like that kind of heavy, philosophy type of stuff over here. Mm-hmm. So then we get to go back inside the ship and look for things to sell. And I think I wrote down a couple episodes in my notes that Wrecker is baby. Because he just is. He's just so childlike. I love him. And I found proton torpedoes are Wrecker's baby.
Mm-hmm. He was very happy to see a proton torpedo, which is super weird because it's not something that you like carry.
Right.
It's something that like a ship fires, but he's walking around with it like it's a toy.
Well, it's like on his shoulder. It's like la di da. I thought it was really funny that the big brother and Wrecker really came out where, you know, he's willing to play with Omega and they're on good terms and stuff. But then Omega like, can you teach me how to disarm that? He's like, no, this one's mine. He wasn't willing to share his toys, which I thought was really funny.
It was super weird. Like I thought that was super weird, but adorable. And you know, like I said, the true story that we're not getting told is the story about Wrecker dealing with concussions.
Yes.
Like the medical drama of like Wrecker trying to piece together his broken life because of being concussed so many times during war.
The CTE chapter of Wrecker's life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear. Oh, I worry about my baby. The next scene though is something I really want to dive into because I have some hot questions about this one. This is the scene where Omega goes to the bridge and is helping Tech download the memory onto the memory stick, you know, the ship's log. And she asked Tech, what was the war like? And Tech, I wrote down the actual reply. It was a primary mission objective comprised of several battles on various fronts. And she's like, okay, yeah, but what was it like? And he's like, I just told you. Which, you know, we've said on basically every recap show that Tech is a sociopath. Now, I think this was an interesting scene because they set up a moment for Tech to get some real character development. Like maybe, you know, if Omega in her childlike way had asked more questions and delved a little deeper, and maybe she went a little too deep and Tech gets a little emotional for a change, or maybe he gets angry because, you know, these questions are really sensitive, or something could have happened there, whether positive or negative. And they didn't take it. And I thought that was a very odd choice. Especially in a show where you have six main characters and all of them have to get, I mean, they don't have to, I guess, but in order for it to be a quality show, they all probably should have their moments of character development. So I have two questions for you. One depends upon the other. The first one is, are we ever going to get character development from Tech? Because if they didn't take it now, they haven't really taken it at all. But we're at the halfway point, and they even set up a scene, again, like I said, to give us that, and they didn't. Mm-hmm. And we haven't gotten it before. So are we going to ever get that?
I actually think that we did.
Okay. Interesting. So Go on.
This scene made me no longer see Tech as the worst. I realized that I've been looking at Tech completely wrong.
Okay. Go on.
Tech is neurodiverse.
For sure. 100%.
And I didn't look at him as such before. I was looking at him completely differently.
Right.
What I realized in that scene when she asked him that, what was the war like, and in his response is like, he's very literal. Mm-hmm. Right? And he processes emotions differently than most of the other characters. And so like when I was watching that scene, I was like, oh, I get it now. He's not being mean. He's not, he just processes the world slightly differently, And so when you ask him a question like that, that is how he processes that question. It's not that he's not trying to not connect with you. It's just that he connects differently. And obviously he does care because he's still there and he's still doing the thing. I think he's even the one that kind of speaks up against some of the choices that some of the questionable choices that Hunter's having to make. Yeah. Throughout this show. And so I'm like, okay, so obviously he does care. I think he just like literally just has a different way of showing it. It's like actually this episode like turned my opinion of him completely. Sure.
Yeah. I think I didn't get as far as you did. I really like that perspective. But I think I got a little itty bitty hint actually in this episode later on. So if I can skip ahead just a little bit and then we'll come back to where we were. There's a moment later on where they're walking through the ship. They're trying to get. Oh, thanks. They're trying to get through the ship, and they're walking through, and Tech is going into some techie detail about what they're doing, and Wrecker goes, "Yeah, no one cares. Keep moving." And both times I watched the episode, I was like, "Oh, I kind of feel bad for Tech because he's going into detail about something that interests him, and Wrecker's like, yeah, shut up." Mm-hmm. And so I don't, like I said, I don't think I got quite as far as you, but I did kind of feel like a little like, oh, Tech,
right, know? And right there, he's sharing something that means something to him.
Right.
That's how he connects.
Yeah, and for me, for those of you who don't know, I have been formally diagnosed with ADHD, and one thing with ADHD is that you have the distractibility and all that crap, but for things that you do enjoy, you do the opposite. You hyper focus. And sometimes, to the exclusion of everything else. And so I kind of got that hyper focus vibe from Tech, where he's like, yeah, here's this thing. And Wrecker's like, yeah, like social cues, Tech, let's get moving. Yep. Where, maybe he didn't pick up on that. And
I think that's why Tech and Echo, or Techo, as we like to call them, our ship name for them. I think that is why they are so close, because I think, because so much of Echo's identity has been stripped away, that he also now processes the world differently, and so I think he identifies with Tech. It's like, it's not that I don't feel; it's just I feel differently, right? And so I think the two of them, I think, are kind of kindred spirits in that way, and that's why we see the two of them so connected on the show. And I was also thinking, because I try and think from a writer's perspective, there's no reason why they would write this character with no redeemable qualities.
No,
right?
No, there's no reason for that.
And then then looking into it, then also like digging in online after this episode, finding people that really love and identify with Tech.
Yeah.
Because they instantly saw it, right? This is a blind spot on my end where I'm like, oh, he's just a dick. He's the worst.
Yeah, same here.
And that's
absolutely.
And that's completely. And I was like, oh, I'm completely wrong. I'm not stepping out of my own POV and stepping into his and seeing his perspective. Yeah. And it's like blew my mind. I went down a rabbit hole on this episode. This is by far my favorite episode of the series.
For sure. I love it. Yeah. And I don't think you should be too hard on yourself, because there are certain archetypes of characters that some people are drawn to and some people are not. Like for me, I tend to be drawn to the funny ones. So of course, Wrecker is my favorite. Whereas you liked, the stoic leadership type, which is why you like Hunter.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you like, yes, we may have missed some certain cues vis-a-vis Tech, but that doesn't mean like because he's not our favorite, like we, weren't seeing things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Now my other question then, because you hit the nail on the head that he connects with Echo the most. I mean, they connect with each other because they see things differently. But that, because how do I put this? Because they haven't gone super deep on either of them. I mean, we've gotten by far the most from Omega, Wrecker, and Hunter. Techo has been a little bit more of an afterthought. So because they're so similar, and because we haven't gotten as much development on them, is Tech even necessary? Like if they had started over with this series and written Tech out, and Echo kind of steps into that brainy, good with machines type of role. Could we have done this without Tech?
Probably, but I'm sure that eventually we'll see an episode that really highlights him, right? And like, even if we don't get as much like character development, I also think this is going to be this is the detriment of the super tight season structure. The Marvel Disney Plus shows have had the same issue, and I think the Star Wars shows are having the same issue, where if there's no room for filler, there's no room to just live with the characters.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So I think I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. I'm a big fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
You did.
And when you're on that journey with them, where there's episodes where we see them just kind of strolling in the town, but then there's also episodes where they're where we're just hyper focusing on a particular character, and the function of this episode is to understand what makes this character tick. Or if we go to like shows like Lost, which did a really great job, especially in its first season, every episode focused on a different character, and we got a ton of backstory on that character that informed what was going on present day. That's what I loved about that flashback format that they had. And I don't think that any of the Disney Plus shows have figured out how to do the thing. Like, strangely, this show does have filler episodes that don't drive the overall plot forward.
Yeah.
But none of them focus on the individual characters as much as I would like. So like in those filler episodes, focus in more on those characters. Let Hunter just be a function of the plot. Don't let him take up all the space. Don't let him Wolverine it, as I would say, because Wolverine would always take up all the space in any X-Men movie.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
and let it be Wrecker's story.
Yeah.
Right. If we were able to focus in more on that, then we would have cared even more when he finally succumbed. Right. In that episode where they go, where Omega gets kidnapped by Ming-Na Wen's character. I'm blanking on her name right now. Fennec Shan. If that was a Wrecker-centric episode, right? Because we already have plenty of characterization on Hunter. Like I'm hoping that we see that more going forward.
Yeah, and I think in fairness to Disney and Disney Plus, it's so new that I think the reason why we're seeing that is what you just described is because all of these shows that have been introduced, with the exception of, I guess, Clone Wars Season 7, have been in their first season.
Yeah.
And if you go back, again, I'll bring up Clone Wars again. In the first season, if I recall correctly, it was a lot of intro stuff. We didn't get to dive deep on a lot of different characters. But as it went on for 7 seasons, we had episodes that focused on the clones. We had episodes that focused on Jar Jar, for God's sake. We had episodes that focused in on, B-tier Jedi that, maybe appear for a few seconds in Attack of the Clones, like Kit Fisto, like Plo Koon. And they gave them personality. And some of those characters, Plo especially, have become fan favorites since then because they got that character development they so richly deserved. But it didn't happen right away. So I think that if we are lucky enough to get a season 2 of The Bad Batch, again, we don't know how this ends, if this is meant to be a one-off or whatever. But if we do get future seasons of not just Bad Batch, but a lot of these Disney Plus shows, I think we will get those smaller, more, nitpicky episodes that we want.
That's what I would say. What makes for good TV. I call them intimate.
Intimate. You know what? Thank you. I was looking for a word, and you brought it to me, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, just like where we can like really get intimate with one of the characters, like emotionally intimate with one of the characters, and really find out like what makes them tick. So, but all right, we're halfway in, and we've barely scratched the surface, and I got a hard out in an hour, so let's hop forward.
Right. In time. Okay, here, cool. So we get to go back onto Camino, and we have this little conspiratory scene between Lama Su and the other one. I can't remember her name right now. I'm sorry. But they talk about a contingency plan, and this contingency plan hinges on a bounty hunter capturing Omega. Do we have any inklings as to what this contingency plan may be?
I was under the assumption that the contingency plan was what we saw at the end.
Yes. No, so, but whatever they have in store depends on getting Omega back.
Right.
So it's like, what do they have in store? Why do they need her so bad?
Yeah, that I am very curious about. I really want to understand what is it about this particular clone, and I'm wondering, is she a clone from of Jango Fett, or is she a clone of someone else? Like, what is the significance of this particular character? Is she the first? Is she maybe the first clone of Palpatine? Right? Maybe she's like a Palpatine clone. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting because yes, we did have that moment with Rex in the last episode where he says, "I've met clones before, but never one like you," which is weird because clones, by definition, are the same. I mean, obviously, the Bad Batch and maybe 99 accepting. Um,
Hi, mother. I love you.
Hi! You're so cute. Oh my god. um, so yeah, so maybe they are dropping him. I never really entertained the idea that maybe she's a clone of not Django, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe they are trying to drop some hints along the way.
Yeah, yeah, it could be because like maybe the accent comes from being on Camino, even though the Kaminoans don't actually speak with that accent. I have no clue.
Dude,
I have
because
no idea.
it's so funny because I've seen a lot of memes having to do with her super strong Kiwi accent. Like they wrote out all the names of the Bad Batch characters, but in her accent. Like so, Hunta was spelled like Hunta. Like
It is
it's
aggressively Kiwi. It's an aggressively Kiwi accent.
Yeah, they did this on purpose for a reason. We just don't know what it is yet. Because
I need to find out if the actress. I have not actually looked up the actress who plays Omega, but I need to find out if they're actually from New Zealand.
She is. Yeah, she is.
Okay, because it sounds like super over the top.
Maybe she's from like the Alabama of New Zealand, where it's like just super thick.
Yeah,
At least I think so. Wait, now I'm second guessing myself. I want to say she is.
Here, I'll look it up. You keep.
Okay, cool. I'll keep going. Great, love
pushing
that.
us forward. Yeah.
Cool. I do want to talk for just a second about how well shot this episode was. I just want to give a little nugget. I mean, we're talking about like the creepiness of inside the ship, the backlighting of the strike team when all those ships were coming down. They had like those big spotlights. I think that gave it kind of an eerie vibe. That transition when they're trying to get in touch with that clone trooper, but he's down, and the camera like flips, and you see his like body is the establishing shot. I thought that was really cool. Hunter's perspective at the end, where like you're seeing things like from his helmet view that that's supposed to be like disorienting. I mean, 10 out of 10 on the cinematography of this episode. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. Also, I realized after our last episode recap that Braca is where you start off in Jedi Fallen Empire, the video game. I think was that a Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
That's the planet from that video game.
Oh right. I don't play video games, so I would not have known that. So thank you for that. Yeah. You had provided the deep dive for today's episode.
Yeah. And that helmet cam looked like, and I am blanking on the name of it. But there was a first person Star Wars shooter, and it looked like that, like the heads up display was a first person perspective, like you were in the helmet, and it looked like that. And I was wondering if that was a shout out, little Easter egg for fans of that video game.
Oh, maybe.
And I can't remember the name of it. Maybe Republic Commando, something like that. I think it might have been called.
Honestly, the only Star Wars games I ever played, I didn't really have like consoles growing up. We just had our PC. But I did play a lot of Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds, which is like a real-time strategy game, which I loved. Anyhow, nostalgia aside, so we finally they hack into the Empire's comms to figure out that they're thinking they're going to go to the hangars. They decide to go to the artillery deck instead, and that's where they come in. We get our reunion with Crosshair. And
he anticipated their movements because he worked with them, which I love. Because
he worked with them, yeah. It only makes sense that he knew every move that they were going to make when they made it.
Right, and they were like, "Oh, there's too much atmospheric interference. We can't see them."
No.
He's like, "No, that's not atmospheric interference. Like, check here." And he knew exactly what they would do, exactly where they would go. He could anticipate them, and I freaking love that.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, obviously with Crosshair having fallen to the inhibitor chip, I knew that their eventual reunion wasn't going to be a happy one, but I don't think I was really prepared for, like, just how, like, misty I would be until they finally faced off. I was like, oh, this is a broken family, and I'm sad.
Yeah. And there's, like, nothing there. Like, they try and they try, like, I think the easy route is to like have him like, what? Like if they talk to him and try and plead, right? I feel like I know that I would probably do that. Like if I were writing this episode, I'd have them like make an emotional plea, and then you'd see it over his face. But the more terrifying prospect is that there's just nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, and even when they make, I mean, Crosshair is not an emotional character to begin with. So even when they appeal to his intellect, be like, hey, there's this inhibitor chip, it's inside you, you can't help what you're doing. Even then, he's like, he does not care. He was ready to shoot them down right then and there.
Right. I was reading Tekka as a sociopath. I was wrong. The truest sociopath on the show.
It was Crosshair all along. Sorry. I really could not help that.
But yeah, I love this scene though. I absolutely love this scene, and I also like when Omega mentions the, it's true. There's an inhibitor chip in you, and I was wondering if that did get through to him, but his way to reconcile with that is murder the child. Like, right? He's just like, kill her. Like that. Yeah. That was his response to her trying to reach out to him. Like, remember what I told you? That it's not up to you or whatever she said.
Interesting.
So
you see that like a motivation,
right? He's just like, oh, kill her, like real quick.
For sure. Yeah. That is an interesting idea. Like, what's going on in his mind? Like, he obviously hears what they're saying, but does he care? Obviously, he doesn't.
Yeah. Right. Because, Mike says, "Aim for the child" was terrifying. It was.
Oh my god. He was like, "No, baby."
Right, and that's the quickest way to establish, like, good v evil, right?
Yeah.
For example, in the first episode of Loki, to establish that Owen Wilson is a good guy, quote unquote, they have a scene with him with a child where he's like, "Oh, look here, tap the thing and play with the little thing with the running," and this the quickest way to let your audience know this is a good person.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the quickest way for us to say, like, no, do not trust Crosshair. He's evil now.
Yeah. And, it's children and dogs.
Yep.
Do not touch the children or the dogs, or you're evil.
Right. John Wick kills 1 million people in John Wick because 3 people killed his dog. And you root for John Wick the entire time to, kill every human being that gets in your way that has absolutely nothing to do with this because those 3 jerks murdered a puppy,
And like, yeah. When we got to the point where Crosshair and the squad are facing off both in the artillery deck and then later on at the ion engine, I legitimately was like, I have no idea how they're going to get out of this one. Obviously, I knew that we're not going to lose the main characters, halfway through the season. But I was like, where is this going?
Yeah.
I could not figure it out.
I feel like there's a fair amount of plot armor. So, like, are we getting to the ion cannon scene now?
Yes, because I did want to say, remember I said earlier there was another scene where I really could not really suspend my disbelief too much. This was the other one.
Yes. Okay. So, right. So this scene... he sends someone to the deck to start up the ion cannon where they're trying to escape from this, like their only other route of escape, and they're starting this thing up. They've got 2 minutes before this thing is fully primed and starts up, and they set charges to like bust the thing open. But like this is a huge structure falling quite a
Enormous.
Bit, right? Like
and
they're all completely fine.
Yeah, and there's that shot where they're literally rolling around like dice in the structure as it's crashing down, which I'm like, okay, somebody's at least broken a bone here or gotten a concussion.
But in that, they have armor, so maybe...
Omega's got nothing.
Omega's got nothing. Child. Omega is wearing a thin cotton poly blend. Right?
And a very stylish powder blue.
Right.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I actually would have appreciated, again, just for my own, this is picky, but if we had gotten a shot of like Wrecker, like using himself as like her human shield, just to soften the blow.
And those are the moments where you can work characterization into your action.
Yeah. We did get a moment where Omega's about to fall and then Hunter like catches you. He's like, I got you. But like we knew that already. But my thing was less about the fall, although that is correct, and more about the ion engine starting. I'm like, I'm sorry. I realize this thing is old. I realize it takes a full 2 minutes to start up. You're next to an engine exhaust that is able to fly through hyperspace. There is no way, while that thing is even starting up, much less almost finished, where you're not disintegrated. Especially Crosshair, which, once this thing actually started up, he was right in the line of fire of that thing. And yes, they show he got injured. I'm like, I'm sorry, you are a pile of ash right now.
Oh yeah. The heat that's coming off that thing must be massive.
Oh my god!
Right, because the pure amount of energy it's producing, the heat it's giving off, the radiation.
Yeah.
Like everyone's sterile, everyone's mutating. Like it's not good. It's not good.
It's gonna be more. It's gonna be more than like they showed him in like a breathing mask and a sling. I'm like, no, you're dead, man. You're so dead.
Right. But that being said, it's a really fun scene. Right,
oh,
it's
absolutely.
It's thrilling. It's thrilling. Don't get me wrong. I freaking love every second of it. But if you think about it for more than a second, you're like, how did that really work?
Yeah. And I get it. It's Star Wars. Like, there are so many things where we are meant to believe that, like, the reason why X, Y, and Z happens to happen is, it's the Force or whatever. Like, we are meant to swallow these flimsy at best explanations for why things happen. So, like, I get it. It's just, again, this is just me being picky. And
by the way, one more deep dive for you. The creature inside that ship, the Dianoga, that is the same type of creature that Luke and Leia and Han encounter in A New Hope.
Yes, I think we mentioned that, but yes, that was.
I didn't remember us mentioning that, and I just read it yesterday, and I was just like, "What? No way!"
But what I appreciate about that is that they showed us like the full creature. Like, we only got the little eyeball in A New Hope, but we got to see the big picture of just how screwed he might have been had things not happened in A New Hope.
Yeah,
but again, it's
okay, here's a question for you, right? So after this ion cannon thing, right, they get back to their ship.
Yeah.
Why didn't they had so many people, so many stormtroopers with them? Why didn't they still have stormtroopers inside of their ship? Because like they were in the ship, like they were like literally in the ship, in the Bad Batch's ship, in the Marauder. They were in they occupied their ship while they were looking for them. Why didn't they just keep a squad there to cut off their route of attack?
They only brought 3 ships worth, so at some point they're gonna run
a lot of people. They have
a lot of people. Well, I mean,
but I'm getting a little bit further ahead because there is one more thing you have to describe.
Yes, we got to get to Cad mother effing Bane, y'all. And so people have for decades and decades described Star Wars as a space western. Okay, when Cad Bane showed up, they went full western with this reveal. You got that like the chord on the acoustic guitar. You got the whistle.
See what Mike said?
Yep. Yeah.
They did, but Cad killed them. That's awesome. Good catch, Mike.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I think I got a little confused with the geography. Like, where is the ship? I know they had people go to the ship, but they split up because the engine fell, and so they're all going to be at the. I think I just got a little confused as to who was where at what time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we got full western. We got the acoustic guitar chord. We got the whistle. We got the standoff between him and Hunter. And then when he shoots Hunter, he does the little twirl, the blaster thing. I'm like, they went so hard on this western imagery.
Yeah, that straight up shoot off or a showdown that they did. The original voice,
his hat, and the little toothpick he's chewing on.
Yeah,
I
love his robot sidekick that I believe is voiced by Seth Green. I'm pretty sure. Right.
No, that sounds really familiar. I remember learning that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Dang.
I love that. And I was terrified because, this showdown, once again, right, the easy route is, Hunter, takes him out. I'm expecting, Hunter's going to win this, and they're going to get away. And all's going to be good. He's probably just going to shoot the blaster out of his hand. That's what I was thinking they were going to do. No. Cad Bane bam, like
Yeah,
shoots
right in
him
the
in the chest
chest.
plate. Yeah, it
Yep.
was pretty great.
Yeah, because upon further reflection, it's like, okay, they're not going to just shoot Cad Bane. They're not going to introduce him for this one scene and then just peace, he's dead or wounded or whatever. Like that was never going to happen. But them being the heroes, you're like, okay. On the flip side of this, yeah, you have to keep the heroes going because without them, you don't have a story.
Right.
But no, they did the thing where they suspended the disbelief. No, sorry. They suspended. Your expectations. There you go. That wasn't that the phrase everyone was using after Infinity War and after Last Jedi.
Subverting.
Thank you. Subvert the expectations. I can't talk. But they subverted They did the thing where they subverted the expectations, and they captured Omega.
Yeah, was not expecting that at all.
Not expecting that.
So this is the most exciting thing for me, because up till now I felt that this has been fairly by the books. Like, I know what's going to happen next. Now I have no clue. Right?
Yeah.
This is like doing the thing that it took 2 seasons to do in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Halfway in your first season.
Yeah.
Let's just take her and see what happens. Right? So.
Yeah. Pulling I think now, punches.
Right. Now I think we get a lot more information. I'm hoping that they stick with it. I'm hoping it's more like a season 2 Grogu getting taken away and not a season 1. Like, well, in season 1, he gave Grogu away. But, this is more of a taking, which was why I say that this is like the second season of Mandalorian. But I would assume if she makes it back to Kamino, we're going to get a huge amount of information dump about what her purpose is.
I hope so. I hope so.
My hope is that this is the acceleration, the accelerant that the plot needs at this point to really kick it into high gear.
Yeah, because now we're like you said, we're moving into the second half. I mean, we need to start getting some answers, or else what was the point of all this?
Right. And I won't say any spoilers for this because it's really recent, and this is not and we're not talking about this particular show. But in the second episode of Loki, they do a thing that I wasn't expecting to happen until the end of Loki, and now I have no idea what is going to happen on that show.
For sure, I know exactly what you're talking about. We just watched it a couple days ago, both episodes.
We review that too, by the way. So check that out on Fridays after Loki airs.
That's right.
With Crystal Hollis and I reviewing that every week. So
nice. Well, apart from just the bigger questions of what is Omega's purpose and etc.
Wednesdays. Sorry, Wednesdays, not Fridays.
Yeah, I know what you meant. My 2 big questions are: 1, where does this leave Fennec? Because Fennec was also looking for Omega. And now Cad Bane is this wild card that just steps in and is like, yo. So apparently Fennec was not being hired by the Kaminoans because they already hired Cad Bane. Fennec was hired by a third party to find Omega. So how many people are looking for this
they've employed multiple bounty hunters, right? The guild will, if it's an open bounty, anybody can get that puck, as we've seen in Mandalorian.
Yeah. That's true too, yeah. But there is a possibility that there is a third party here.
There is a possibility for a third party.
Yeah, so it's like, how many people are looking for this kid? Yeah. And the other, speaking of looking for this kid, how the hell are they going to find Omega? They don't know who Cad Bane is. They don't know where he took her. They have absolutely nothing to go on here, except for maybe going back to Ord Mantell and asking Sid, yo, we had this blue guy took our kid. Where the hell is he going?
I think that they will realize that if a bounty hunter is after her, that she's being taken back to Kamino. So I think they'll know that, like, if he's heading that way, that they'll have perhaps a chance to cut him off, or we get them going back to Kamino to infiltrate the base and take her back from the Kaminoans.
Yeah, and I think this potential, once they eventually figure out that she'd gone to Kamino, if whether or not they do it immediately, when they eventually go there to pick her up, because we know it's going to happen, this is the first time we'll see Kamino as an enemy base. Because up till now, it's been the place where the Republic gets all its clones. Yes, we've seen battles in there before, like in Clone Wars, but this is the first time this would have to be like a covert operation. Because it's the Empire now, so I think I really want like a full on like spy thriller episode where they rush in to extract her from the premises.
Yeah. Mike said Lamasu and Nalase say they'd already hired another bounty hunter, which he assumed to mean Fennec. Then they say they need to up their game, and that's when Cad gets hired. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think I agree with that. Think I agree with that read of the text there.
Sure.
Also, Lamasu and Nalase sounds like something that Michael Jackson would say at the end of a song, like one of his chants.
Yeah.
Lamasu and Nalase, Lamasu and Nalase. Like it sounds like something he would do at the end of the song.
I love it. That's phenomenal. So now we have reached the end of this episode, and we get to the all-important question: where does this rank out of 5? You said this was your favorite one so far.
This is my favorite one so far. I'm going to. It's not perfect, but it is definitely the strongest so far. Yeah. I'm going to give it. But these are all supremely watchable. So even if when I say these are not perfect, these are mostly quibbles that my writer brain can't. I overanalyze everything that I watch. Anyway. So I would say that I would give this a 4.75.
Okay, you are tough to please.
See, early on when I started doing these reviews, Thomas got in my head and said, 5 out of 5 is perfection, and perfection is not attainable. Now that I'm a little, I think a little less strict on it. I will give out a perfect 5, but it's got to be something pretty incredible. This was really good. This almost got to a 5. I think if there were a few like higher stakes or another great set piece or something, that maybe I would have gotten to a 5. But this was pretty damn good.
Man, I gave the last episode a 5. So, because for me, it's just like, how did this make me feel? How did this advance the plot forward? Was this filler? Did it expand on any characters? I think it did pretty much all of those. So it was exciting. Yes, it was also very exciting. So I'm going to give this one another 5.
Another 5.
Oh my gosh, when the shriek that emitted from my mouth when Cad Bane showed up, I was not prepared.
I was shook. I was shook when like the last thing I was expecting was Cad Bane to be there to
absolutely
cut them off at the pass. Like I was like expecting what could this contingency be? Like, what are they going to pull out here? And that was not what I was expecting, and I loved it.
Not for a minute. Minute. Cool.
But I think that will be the norm, though. I think nearly every episode, we're going to get a throwback character from Clone Wars.
It seems like it. Yeah. It definitely seems like it by now, because we've run the freaking gamut. We've gotten Tarkin, we've gotten Saw, we've gotten Rafa and Trace, we've gotten Bib Fortuna for reasons. We've gotten pretty much everybody at this point. I mean, who's left?
I mean, there's plenty of characters. I mean, 7 seasons. There's plenty of characters. But a lot of the Jedi characters, though, have been murdered. They've been. So they've
been axed. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see who else. I would assume that we'll probably see some sort of Mandalorian contingent at some point.
We did with Fennec, but yeah, she's.
Well, I mean, like actual Mandalorians.
Oh gosh, okay. I thought you meant the show Mandalorian. My bad. Ahsoka is the wild card because so we know that the Ahsoka series is coming. Let's talk about that for a second. Mm-hmm. But they kind of did the re-entry of Ahsoka in season 2 of Mandalorian. So it's like, do they need to do it again? I don't think they do.
I don't think it would serve as a re-entry necessarily, because like we've just now established that these characters will pop up. Like these are the characters that pop up in these shows. So I think if she shows up, it's more of a like, here's the thing of the week, and now we're crossing paths with Ahsoka. And, the
thing of the week.
They can backfill some story about her hunt for something or whatever. Actually, we don't even know what she's doing at this point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of blank space. We could see maybe someone that's completely abandoned their code. Maybe she's like in her dark period where she's just like, screw everything. I'm just drinking in a backwater
I don't see
cantina,
that happening to Ahsoka.
And they help her find her light again or something. Who knows, right? But yeah, I think that could definitely be a possibility for sure. I think that's a strong possibility because that's Filoni's baby, right? Like that's Filoni's like god tier character that he created.
But Ahsoka, I kind of disagree. I feel like Ahsoka is like a Luke Skywalker, where like you pull this card exactly once, you cannot unpull this card. You know what I mean? I don't think you could just have her cause you need your person of the week, your thing of the week. And they already, like I said, they already brought her back for, now I get that Mandalorian is post Empire. We're in the pre A New Hope stage. So, there's a time to get there, but they already established what she's going to be up to in the Ahsoka series when she asks that person in the city, where's Thrawn? So like we already have like what she's up to at that point. I don't think they really have a reason to insert her in this point. Does that make sense?
At least not that we know of, right? But because we don't know what she was doing at this time in her life.
Correct.
Right. There's a pretty big gap of time between where we leave off with her in Clone Wars and where we are by the time
Rebels.
we see her.
We do get Rebels, which is also pre-Empire or pre-New Hope, rather.
But hasn't happened yet.
Correct.
Right. So, we know where she's at then. She could be, for all we know, she could be helping do the building blocks. We could still see her when what was her name? Her code name, was it Fulcrum?
Yeah.
Right. So maybe, we see the creation of the Fulcrum identity. Right. Maybe that's the name of the episode, the Fulcrum identity. And it's like a riff on the Bourne identity.
Well, funny you should say that because we did get a drop of the next batch, pardon the pun, of episode titles.
Oh, did we?
We did, yes. And let me see if I can find it because that could be one last thing to end this conversation on. I'm going to go. I found it. I saw it first on a community post on YouTube. But if I go back into YouTube, I'm never going to find it. So I'm going to see if we have those episode titles on
IMDb. While you look for that, I'm just going to monologue for a second. So,
cute,
so I'll give you here's my wild predictions. Okay,
go ahead. No,
don't get my wild predictions now.
No, let's hear your wild prediction. No,
I'll give you my wild prediction is that the special thing about Omega is that Omega is the first strand cast type of clone. It is that she is the next evolution in cloning technology, the strand cast technology. The reason why she's so important because she's a proof of concept of what they can do now, which will be very beneficial to the Emperor. Old school clones, maybe they're not able to hold the Force, right? They can't be Force sensitive. But these new strand casts do have the potential to be Force sensitive, and so perhaps we're seeing the beginning of the technology that the Emperor uses to keep himself alive.
Yeah, I think that's a very solid prediction. Because people are already expecting her to be Force sensitive, and they have to do something a little different in order to, again, subvert the expectations.
That's right.
It's not as much fun if people actually get it right. Okay, so here's the interesting thing. All of the dropped episode titles are in July. So we do not have next week's, which is June 25th, episode 9. But we do have all of July. So episode 10 is called Common Ground. Episode 11 is Devil's Deal. Episode 12, which I'm kind of excited about, is called Rescue on Ryloth. So we are going to go back to Ryloth, everybody. It's Twi'lek time. And then we get episode 13 on July 23rd. It's called...
Do we get to see Hera?
She might be our person of the week. I mean, we haven't... I don't think we've quite gotten to the Rebels timeline yet. So,
and in Common Ground, I think could potentially be an episode where Hunter and Crosshair have to work together and find common ground.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think that has to be a Crosshair reference. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Especially 2 episodes after this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think we'll get a Crosshair salvation. What's the word I'm looking for? A Crosshair redemption. That's what I'm looking for. I don't think we're getting Crosshair redemption in the next episode. I think they've built this up long enough. I think they have to string us along a little bit farther. But I could see it in 2 episodes, which is what that is called. Episode 13 on July 23rd is called Infested, which to me says Geonosis. That gives me Geonosis vibes because it's infested. It's the kind of buggy, vibe. And then finally on July 30th, so this is the third to last episode 14. It's called War Mantle, which as we discussed in the first episode, Project War Mantle, was the one that was, mentioned for a second in Rogue One. But it apparently refers to, getting conscripted soldiers instead of clones.
Interesting.
So lots to go on here.
Yeah, that means that we definitely will continue on the thread of the Empire building its infrastructure, which is
absolutely
cool, that's one of the things I really liked about the first couple episodes of this show.
Yeah,
was seeing how that happened. So that's very cool.
Yeah,
I love it.
Lots to be excited about in the future.
Absolutely.
All right, want to get out of here, Maui?
Yes, thank you so much. That was a wonderful. Thank you for your wonderful hosting and recap of the episode. I love it when we can go down these rabbit holes of conversation about the characters and their inner workings and whatnot.
For sure. So it makes it all worthwhile.
Absolutely. We will see you all next week.
All right. See you guys.